For those of you who don't know, Toronto had its International Film Festival, known as the TIFF, earlier this month. I was lucky enough to be a volunteer for most of its run, and safe to say I had a great time. I got to see a bunch of films from all over the world, and I got to meet and work with some really cool people. But which films had the most promise, you might ask? Obviously, I was not able to see all the films that were playing, but these four stand out as the ones I would recommend the most from the films I did see. Number 4. Who Am I? Imagine if The Prestige and The Usual Suspects had a German love child, and that German child became a computer hacker. This is my own personal analogy to describe Who Am I's plot. The film follows a group of young men who are lost in normal society. They're obsessed, however, with the underground world of hackers, which is infiltrated by various crime syndicates. Of course, they end up attracting attention to themselves, and this leads to a lot of trouble. I won't go into what happens or what's really going on, but it is safe to say that there are a lot of twists and turns in this German flick. The movie's style allows for a really cool portrayal of the computer world. The filmmakers gave a really cool interpretation of what the hacker world on the internet was like. And it's also worth pointing out that the film was well acted and well written overall. Number 3. Red Army. I'm one of those 1 or 3 Canadians who actually isn't that interested in hockey, so it's all the more impressive to me that Red Army got me incredibly invested in the sport. Red Army is a documentary about hockey, but from the Russian point of view. It's really fascinating to see this documentary after so many years of learning how the Russians were the big bad guys in the Summit Series and then the Olympics. For all of my Canadian perspective on hockey, it's really cool to hear from the surviving members of the elite Soviet hockey team, which impressed and terrified hockey teams around the world. We get to find out what it was really like to be part of that legacy, all the blessings and all the curses. It's really cool to see how the tactics and ideals that the Soviets had clashed with the Western ones on and off the rink. It's a great documentary which got a lot of love from the audiences watching the film, including me. Number 2. A Second Chance. This Danish film stars Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, better known as Jaime Lannister. Speaking his native Danish, Nikolaj is a well-to-do cop with a loving wife and a newborn child. He finds out that a criminal he put away is out of jail, and he's got a new baby of his own. The child is neglected by its parents, and Nikolaj's character desperately tries to get it into social services. But this situation gets much darker than anyone expects. I'm not going to say why or what happens, but this is a very dark look at the consequences of grief and rage. The film is very well acted, very well written, and it shows how the right thing can also be the wrong thing at the same time. Number 1. Tusk. I have always liked Kevin Smith, but this movie has forever changed my opinion of him. On the one hand, I respect him even more for being able to make this film, but it also disgusts me and makes me fear what sort of deranged mind could possibly make such a film work. The story is that a podcaster goes up north to Canada to find interesting stories, and he meets an old recluse who promises just that. What he ultimately gets, well, it's impossible to describe without giving too much away. Basically, Tusk is the best horror comedy I have seen since I saw An American Werewolf in London. The film genuinely scared me, yet also made me laugh at different times. Aside from one scene which dragged way too long, the movie is otherwise very well edited and put together. The tension from one plot fills the audience with terror, and the other plot adds a more human and comedic side to the story. And when these plots come together again, it leads to the most powerful conclusion to any Kevin Smith movie that's ever been made. Yes, more profound than the Clerks movies. I left the cinema in a daze, not sure how I felt about what I'd just seen, but I was glad that I had seen it. Give this movie a chance. Hell, give all 4 of these movies a chance if you can. Next time TIFF rolls around, and you're in the Toronto area, I recommend you give it a chance. You'll get to meet great people, you'll get to have a lot of fun, and you'll get the chance to see some movies you otherwise would not have gotten the chance to see.